21 Reasons Why a Relationship Can Become Toxic. Relationship comes in different forms. When one hears about toxic relationship, the first thing that comes to mind is, what is a toxic relationship? A toxic relationship contaminates your self-esteem, your happiness, and the way you see yourself in the world. A toxic person will float through life with a trail of broken hearts, broken relationships, and broken people behind them, but toxic relationships don't necessarily end up that way because the person you fell for turned out to be a toxic one. Relationships can start healthy, but bad feelings, bad history, or long-term unmet needs can fester, polluting the relationship and changing the people in it. It can happen easily and quickly, and it can happen to the strongest people. So what are the signs that I'm in a toxic relationship? Well, it is normal for relationships to be challenging. But when they exceed a certain level of stress, they negatively impact every aspect of your life, your business, your friendships, your health, even your mental stability. One study shows that staying in a bad marriage can raise your stress level to the point where you're more likely to get heart disease, the #1 killer of both men and women in the US. Marriage and family therapist Sharon Rivkin says, if you're in a bad marriage, don't underestimate the stress that you are carrying around. If you're seeing the following signs of a toxic relationship, it may be time to seek help. 1. Passive-aggressive behavior. If you can feel something is wrong, but when you ask, "What's going on?" the other person says, "Nothing," but then punishes you by giving you the silent treatment, that's passive aggression. One problem with it is that it doesn't leave much room for resolution of the conflict. If you don't know what's wrong, you can't fix it. Passive-aggressive behavior is often accompanied by gaslighting, or making the other person think they're crazy for even bringing it up. If you constantly feel like there's something off, but when you try to talk to your partner about it you get shut down, you may be in a toxic relationship. 2. Volatility. A relationship with extremely high highs and extremely low lows that tend to repeat has a high likelihood of being toxic. This is especially true if you find it hard to predict when your partner will be upset. Uncertainty has been demonstrated, over and over, to be very hard on not just human beings, but all animals. Study after study shows that not knowing what's going to happen, or how to avoid pain, spikes your levels of glucocorticoids, stress hormones. A healthy relationship includes conflict, of course, but not all the time and not to an acute degree. 3. Jokes that aren't really jokes. If your partner makes belittling comments about you but then claim they were just joking, there's a problem. Emotional bullies not only drop subtle insults, but they often then try to make their victims look stupid or like they're overreacting. The way you can tell, a good joke will make you feel included. A toxic joke will make you feel small, angry, and powerless. 4. Walking on eggshells. Ever hide your phone because you're afraid of what your significant other is going to say about a text from someone else? Are you afraid of going out with people after work because he might get jealous? Healthy relationships are built on trust and open communication. If you often find yourself trying to predict what will make your partner angry and avoiding that, even if it doesn't always work, it could be a toxic situation. You don't do that kind of thing with your friends, why is okay with your significant other? 5. You feel like you have to ask permission. A mature adult relationship is comprised of two adults, and adults do not have to ask one another for permission. Yes, relationships require compromise, and you should consider your partner when making big life decisions like whether to move across the country or switch jobs. But if you feel like you need permission to make plans with friends, or find yourself feeling uncomfortable about making simple choices without seeing if it's okay with your significant other, there's something wrong. 6. Constant exhaustion. Trying to predict someone else's behavior, or mood changes, is tiring. Do it over and over for months or years, and you will become exhausted. In healthy relationships, both partners feel normal and relaxed most of the time. In toxic ones, the good periods that were so common at the beginning start to be fewer and further between, and rarely last long. If you constantly feel drained and exhausted in your relationship, it's time to think about exiting. 7. Becoming isolated. Part of the problem with the exhaustion is your motivation level for seeing anyone else, including friends and family. If your partner discourages you from seeing those close to you, that's a major red flag. But the more insidious issue is when you yourself stop making an effort to see the people you love out of sheer exhaustion. The first step when it comes to getting out of a toxic relationship is admitting there's a problem. Be careful, take care of yourself, and get help if you need it. With that said, there are a few other things you need to know about toxic relationships. Toxic relationships will cause monumental breakage to people, families, and workplaces, but they aren't necessarily the territory of the weak, downtrodden, or insecure. Strong, healthy, independent people can find themselves in the white-knuckled grip of a toxic relationship. Similarly, relationships that seem to begin strong because we're so in love you guys, can dissolve into nothing but ash and legal fees that could have bought a castle on the River Seine, if they weren't being used to divide half your assets more half-lie. Relationships evolve. They change and they grow. Sometimes they crash and they burn. We never know how things will look when each other's less adorable, kind of awful habits start to show themselves publicly, or under the influence of alcohol or in-laws. Some relationships are all shades of wrong from the outset. Darling, you're so pretty. You're the image of my ex. See? Here's her photo. You can keep that one. I have plenty, in my wallet, as my screensaver, on my bedside table, at my mom's house, on my desk, on my fridge, and yeah, all over the place. Sometimes I just, hold it in front of me and run backwards and pretend like she's chasing me. Wanna get some tequila, baby? Some start off with promise and with all the right ingredients, but somewhere along the way, the right ingredients get replaced with resentment, jealousy, history, and hurt. We love love. Of course we do. Love sends us to joyous, lofty heights that we never want to come down from. But the same heart that can send us into a loved-up euphoria can trip us up and have us falling into something more toxic. The hot pursuit of love can be blinding. Even worse, sometimes it's not until you're 2 kids and a mortgage into the relationship, that you realize something has been missing for a while, and that something is you. Can I fix it? All relationships are worth the fight, until they're not. In a toxic relationship there will always be fallout. Moodiness, anger, unhappiness become the norm. You avoid each other more and more. Work in relationships outside the toxic relationship start to suffer. If the relationship is toxic, it is highly likely that all the fight in the world won't change anything because one or both people have emotionally moved on. Perhaps they were never really there in the first place, or not in the way you needed them to be anyway. Even worse, if your relationship is toxic, you will be more and more damaged by staying in it. Fighting to hold on to something that is not fighting to hold on to you will ruin you. Sometimes the only thing left to do is to let go with grace and love and move on. Being aware that the relationship is toxic is vital in protecting yourself from breakage. To stay in a toxic relationship is to keep your hand hovering over the self-destruct button. Not all toxic relationships are easy to leave, but being aware of the signs will make it easier to claim back your power and draw a bold, heavy line around what's allowed into your life and what gets closed out. Toxic behavior exists on a spectrum. All people and all relationships do some of these things some of the time, but that doesn't make them toxic. A toxic relationship is defined by the consistency, the intensity, and the damage. Here are other signs why a toxic relationship has become toxic. 8. It feels bad. All the time. You fall asleep hollow and you wake up just as bad. You look at other couples doing their happy couple thing and you feel the sting. Why couldn't that sort of love happen for you? It can, but first you have to clear the path for it to find you. Leaving a relationship is never easy, but staying for too long in a toxic relationship will make sure any strength, courage and confidence in you is eroded down to nothing. Once that happens, you're stuck. 9. You're constantly braced for the gotcha. Sometimes you can see it coming. Sometimes you wouldn't see it if it was lit with stadium floodlights. Questions becomes traps. Well, would you rather go out with your friends or stay home with me? Statements becomes traps. You seem to enjoy talking to your boss tonight. The relationship is a jungle and somewhere along the way you've turned into a hunted thing in a skin suit. When the gotcha comes, there's no forgiveness, just the glory of catching you out. It's impossible to move forward from this. Everyone makes mistakes, but yours are used as proof that you're too uninvested, too wrong, too stupid, too something. The only thing you really are is too good to be treated like this. 10. You avoid saying what you need because there's just no point. We all have important needs in relationships. Some of the big ones are connection, validation, appreciation, love, sex, affection. When those needs are mocked or ignored, the emptiness of that unmet need will clamor like an old church bell. If your attempts to talk about what you need end in a fight, another empty promise, accusations of neediness, insecurity, jealousy or madness, you'll either bury the need or resent that it keeps being overlooked. Either way, it's toxic. 11. There's no effort. Standing on a dance floor doesn't make you a dancer, and being physically present in a relationship doesn't mean there is an investment being made in that relationship. Doing things separately sometimes is healthy, but as with all healthy things, too much is too much. When there is no effort to love you, spend time with you, share the things that are important to you, the relationship stops giving and starts taking too much. There comes a point that the only way to respond to "well, I'm here, aren't I?" is, "yeah. But maybe better if you weren't." 12. All the work, love, compromise comes from you. Nobody can hold a relationship together when they are the only one doing the work. It's lonely and it's exhausting. If you're not able to leave the relationship, give what you need to give, but don't give any more than that. Let go of the fantasy that you can make things better if you try hard enough, work hard enough, say enough, do enough. Stop. Just stop. You're enough. You always have been. 13. When no is a dirty word. No is an important word in any relationship. Don't strike it from your vocabulary, even in the name of love, especially not in the name of love. Healthy relationships need compromise, but they also respect the needs and wants of both people. Communicating what you want is as important for you in the relationship as communicating what you don't want. Find your no, give it a polish, and know where the release button is. A loving partner will respect that you're not going to agree with everything they say or do. If you're only accepted when you're saying yes, it's probably time to say no to the relationship. And if you're worried about the gap you're leaving, buy your soon-to-be ex some putty. Problem solved. 14. The scorecard. Let me show you how wrong you are. One of the glorious things about being human is that making mistakes is all part of what we do. It's how we learn, how we grow, and how we find out the people who don't deserve us. Even the most loving, committed partners will do hurtful, stupid things sometimes. When those things are brought up over and over, it will slowly kill even the healthiest relationship and keep the guilty person small. At some point, there has to be a decision to move on or move out. Having shots continually fired at you based on history is a way to control, shame and manipulate. Healthy relationships nurture your strengths. Toxic ones focus on your weaknesses. 15. There's a battle, and you're on your own. Again. You and your partner are a team. You need to know that whatever happens, you have each other's backs, at least publicly. In healthy relationships, when the world starts throwing stones, the couple comes together and fortifies the wall around each other. Toxic relationships often see one person going it alone when it comes to public put-downs. Similarly, when attempts are made from outside the relationship to divide and conquer, the couple is divided and conquered as easily as if they were never together in the first place. 16. Physical or verbal abuse. Or both. These are deal breakers. You know they are. 17. Too much passive-aggressive. Passive-aggressive behavior is an indirect attack and a cowardly move for control. The toxicity lies in stealing your capacity to respond and for issues to be dealt with directly. The attack is subtle and often disguised as something else, such as anger disguised as indifference whatever or I'm fine, manipulation disguised as permission I'll just stay at home by myself while you go out and have fun, and the worst, a villain disguised as a hero, you seem really tired baby. We don't have to go out tonight. You just stay in and cook yourself some dinner and I'll have a few drinks with Svetlana by myself hey? She's been a mess since the cruise was postponed. You know the action or the behavior was designed to manipulate you or hurt you, because you can feel the scrape, but it's not obvious enough to respond to the real issue. If it's worth getting upset about, it's worth talking about, but passive-aggressive behavior shuts down any possibility of this. 18. Nothing gets resolved. Every relationship will have its issues. In a toxic relationship, nothing gets worked through because any conflict ends in an argument. There is no trust that the other person will have the capacity to deal with the issue in a way that is safe and preserves the connection. When this happens, needs get buried, and in a relationship, unmet needs will always feed resentment. 19. Whatever you're going through, I'm going through worse. In a healthy relationship, both people need their turn at being the supported and the supporter. In a toxic relationship, even if you're the one in need of support, the focus will always be on the other person. Babe, like I know you're really sick and can't get out of bed, but it's so stressful for me because now I have to go to the party by myself. Next Saturday I get to choose what we do. K? Sad emoji, balloon emoji, heart emoji, another heart emoji, lips emoji. 20. Privacy? What privacy? Unless you've done something to your partner that you shouldn't have, like, forgot you had one on singles Saturday, then you deserve to be trusted. Everybody deserves some level of privacy, and healthy relationships can trust that this won't be misused. If your partner constantly goes through your receipts, phone bills, text messages, this shows a toxic level of control. It's demeaning. You're an adult and don't need constantly supervision. 21. The lies. Oh, the lies. Lying and cheating will dissolve trust as if it was never there to begin with. Once trust is so far gone, it's hard to get it back. It might come back in moments or days, but it's likely that it will always feel fragile, just waiting for the wrong move. A relationship without trust can turn strong, healthy people into something they aren't naturally: insecure, jealous and suspicious. The toxicity of this lies in the slow erosion of confidence. Sometimes all the fight in the world can't repair trust when it's badly broken. Know when enough is enough. It's not your fault that the trust was broken, but it's up to you to make sure that you're not broken next. Big decisions are for important people. And clearly you're not one of them. If you're sharing your life with someone, it's critical that you have a say in the decisions that will affect you. Your partner's opinions and feelings will always be important, and so are yours. Your voice is an important one. A loving partner in the context of a healthy relationship will value your thoughts and opinions, not pretend that they don't exist or assume theirs are more important. Well, I think I might be in a toxic relationship. What now? If it's toxic, it's changing you and it's time to leave or put up a very big wall. See here for how. Be clear about where the relationship starts and where you begin. Keep your distance emotionally and think of it as something to be managed, rather than something to be beaten or understood. Look for the patterns and look for the triggers. Then, be mindful about what is okay and what isn't. Above all else, know that you are strong, complete and vital. Don't buy into any tiny-hearted, close-minded push that would have you believe otherwise. You're amazing. And finally, there are plenty of reasons you might end up in a toxic relationship, none of which have nothing to do with strength of character or courage. Sometimes the toxicity grows and blindsides you, and by the time you realize, it's too late. The cost of leaving might feel too high or there may be limited options. Toxicity in any relationship doesn't make sense. In an attempt to make it make sense, you might blame history, circumstance or your own behavior. The truth is that none of this matters. It doesn't matter where the toxicity comes from or the reason for it being there. Love and happiness don't always go together. The world would run so much smoother if they did, but it just doesn't happen like that. Love can be a dirty little liar sometimes. So can commitment. Staying in a relationship should never have losing yourself as one of the conditions. You're far too important for that. It's important to make sacrifices in relationships, but your happiness, self-esteem and self-respect should always be on the list, always. If a relationship is built on love, it nurtures, restores, replenishes and revives. It doesn't diminish. It isn't cruel and it doesn't ever violate a warm, open heart. Everything you need to be happy is in you. When you are with someone who suffocates those precious parts of you, be alive to the damage they are doing. You owe them nothing, you owe yourself everything. You deserve to thrive and to feel safe, and you deserve to be happy. So are you looking for love? Or do you want to improve your relationship? Look no further. Join our Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/romantic.relationship. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more of our videos, and like us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. Also visit our website at www.romanticrelationship.com.